Chapter 6. As a Padawan apprentice to Obi-Wan Kenobi, Anakin Skywalker was eager to become a Jedi Knight. However, the hallowed halls of the Jedi Temple did not encourage eagerness, and the Jedi Masters insisted that Anakin devote himself to serious study of the Force and the history of the Jedi. He learned about the nature of the Force, the energy field that was generated by all living things, and which suffused and bound the entire galaxy together. Ancient Jedi had learned to manipulate the Force and choose to use it selflessly to help others. They identified two sides of the Force: the light side, which bestowed great knowledge, peace, and serenity, and the dark side, which was filled with fear, anger, and aggression. Long ago, a group of Jedi had turned to the dark side and were exiled to an unknown region of space where they came to dominate the Sith species and to call themselves Sith Lords. Jedi investigators concluded that Qui-Gon Jinn's killer was a Sith Lord, the first to appear in Republic space for 1,000 years. Anakin also learned about midichlorians, microscopic life forms found in all living things, which could determine the scope of a Jedi's powers. A blood test had determined that Anakin's body contained more midichlorians than any known Jedi, even the great Jedi Master Yoda, which led some Jedi to believe that he had the potential to become the most powerful Jedi ever. The Jedi archives were filled with many Jedi holocrons, ancient devices that projected holograms and served as interactive educational tools, and it was through the holocrons that Anakin learned more about the prophecy of the Chosen One, a Jedi who would destroy the Sith and bring balance to the Force. He could only imagine the ramifications of the prophecy, but he felt very, very proud as he recalled how Qui-Gon Jinn had told the Jedi Council that he believed Anakin was the Chosen One. But Anakin was also bitter that he had not been chosen by Obi-Wan, who had only accepted him as an apprentice out of obligation to Qui-Gon. Because Anakin had not been trained since infancy at the temple like nearly all other Padawans, various Jedi Masters accepted the fact that he lacked the discipline of his fellow students. They were less accepting, however, of his arrogant behavior when he demonstrated his abilities. I'm more powerful with the Force than some of my instructors, Anakin thought, and they know it. Like eagerness, pride and arrogance were not acceptable characteristics for any Jedi, even if he really did turn out to be the Chosen One. Many Jedi remained cautious of him. They're just jealous. Anakin enjoyed praise from Obi-Wan, but often became sullen when he was reprimanded. Obi-Wan assured him that he himself had been frequently reminded by Qui-Gon to be more mindful of the Force, but somehow even the slightest criticism managed to leave Anakin feeling stunned. First they tell me to do my best, then they tell me I've gone too far. Obi-Wan was sympathetic. He knew that Anakin's upbringing, as well as formidable powers, set him apart from the other Padawans that even alienated him from some of the Jedi Masters. After all, Anakin had an unfortunate history with the word master. They don't know what it's like to be born into slavery. He also had difficulty adjusting to an environment that discouraged anger as well as love, as such emotions could cloud a Jedi's judgment and lead to negative thoughts and actions. The boy could no sooner forget his mother than he could stop loving her, nor could he stop missing her or resenting the fact that the Jedi Order discouraged contact with relatives. Why won't they help me free my mother? It's not fair. It's not right. Countless times, Obi-Wan explained that every Jedi had to obey the directives of the Jedi Council and could never use the Force for selfish purposes. He urged Anakin to consider how freeing one slave on Tatooine might lead to the deaths of others, as some slavers might prefer to destroy their property than release them from bondage. The Jedi had also had to answer to the Galactic Senate, and for the time being, the Senate had little interest in anything that happened on Tatooine. Why did the Jedi have to answer to anybody? Anakin wondered. Despite Anakin's desire to distance himself from the slave he had once been, he was unable or unwilling to shed the other aspects that had defined him on Tatooine. He still dreamed of glory, still craved adventure, and never lost his appetite for high-speed thrills and the desire to prove himself in competition. Over the years, Anakin's actions often tested his master's patience. At age 12, he flew in illegal garbage pit races in the bowels of Galactic City on Coruscant. When he was nearly 13, he constructed his first lightsaber, which he soon used to bring about the end of a notorious slaver named Crayon. At 15, while on a mission with Obi-Wan to serve as peacekeepers at the Galactic Games on the planet Euceron, he competed in an illegal pod race to win the freedom of a slave. At 17, his rivalry with another Padawan led to a most unfortunate outcome on the ancient Sith homeworld of Korriban. Later that year, unusual circumstances led him to enter a pod race against his childhood nemesis, Sebulba, on Ryloth. Eventually, Anakin realized that Obi-Wan was the one Jedi who refused to give up on him. He came to regard Obi-Wan as the father figure he never had, although Qui-Gon Jinn had certainly come close in that area. In time, Anakin and Obi-Wan learned to trust each other and became close friends. As with Obi-Wan's former partnership with Qui-Gon, they gained a reputation as a capable team, so attuned that they could sense each other's presence across great distances. Although they were most often called upon for diplomatic missions, they were also dispatched on many dangerous assignments. Much to Anakin's surprise, Supreme Chancellor Palpatine took a special interest in him and his activities. Time and again, Palpatine told Anakin that he was the most gifted Jedi he'd ever met, and that he envisioned Anakin would someday become even more powerful than Master Yoda. But for all of Anakin's confidence in his powers, all his accomplishments and victories, and all the lessons learned in the decade that followed the Battle of Naboo, nothing prepared him at age 20 for his reunion with Padme Amidala. Annie? Said Padme, taken aback at the sight of the tall young man who stood beside Obi-Wan in her apartment on Coruscant. The two Jedi had just returned from a mission to resolve a border dispute on Anakin when they had been instructed to meet with Padme, who had continued to serve her homeworld as a galactic senator after completing her second term as the elected queen of Naboo. Also present in the apartment were Jar Jar Binks and a Naboo security officer. Padme and Jar Jar had not seen Obi-Wan and Anakin in 10 years, and Padme beamed at Anakin as she said, "My goodness, how you've grown." Hoping to sound mature, Anakin replied without thinking, "So have you." What a stupid thing to say. The last time I saw her, I was shorter than her. Hoping to recover from his embarrassment, he added, "Grow more beautiful, I mean." Did I just say that? Well, for a senator, I mean. Everyone in this room would think I'm an idiot. Padme laughed. "Annie, you'll always be the little boy I knew on Tatooine." Anakin felt crushed. He thought of Padme every day since their first encounter, and he didn't want her to think of him as that little boy. She's even more beautiful than I remembered. Although the old friends were glad to see each other again, the circumstances of their reunion were grave. The Galactic Senate had grown so corrupt that the citizens of many worlds were threatening to end their allegiance to the Republic and create their own government. A former Jedi, the charismatic Count Dooku, had begun to organize the separatist movement, and many believed the situation would erupt into an all-out civil war. Because the Jedi Order was unprepared for such a massive conflict, many senators wanted to create an army to defend and preserve the Republic. Hoping to find a peaceful resolution, Senator Amidala had traveled to Coruscant to cast her vote against the Military Creation Act, but was nearly assassinated upon her arrival. In a terrifying ambush, her starship was destroyed and 6 people, including one of her bodyguards, were killed. At Supreme Chancellor Palpatine's request, Obi-Wan and Anakin had been appointed to protect Padme. To make matters worse, in recent weeks, Anakin had been disturbed by a series of dreams that his mother was in danger. He considered whether the dreams had been some kind of premonition of the attack on Padme, but sensed that the visions were unrelated. In the most startling nightmare, his mother had been transformed into a glass statue and shattered before his eyes. It was just a bad dream, Anakin tried to convince himself as he focused on his assignment. It was Padme's idea to use herself as bait to lure the mysterious assassin into the hands of the Jedi. Hearing her plan, Anakin said, it's not a good idea, Senator. Beside him, R2-D2 beeped at what may have been an agreement. Although Anakin had been secretly happy to have this moment alone with Padme in her apartment, he almost wished Obi-Wan were with them right now instead of meeting with the Jedi Council so that he could discourage Padme too. Padme said, "Moving me to a different suite will only delay another attack." "But what you're suggesting is far too dangerous. You could get hurt." "That is a possibility," Padme said, "but if we prepare for an attack here in this suite and really cover every angle, then we would have an advantage over the assassin, wouldn't we? And R2 can help." Looking away from Padme, Anakin shook his head and said, "It would still be too risky. For all we know, there may be a whole army of assassins." Padme stepped closer to Anakin, forcing him to turn back to her and meet her gaze. She said, "I have no interest in dying, Anakin, but I don't want any more innocent people to lose their lives because someone wants me dead. If you can understand that, then you'll help me do this." As much as Anakin wanted to apprehend the people who had tried to kill Padme, he knew that Obi-Wan would not readily approve the idea of using Padme as bait. Despite his better judgment, Anakin said, "All right, Senator, I'll help you." Obi-Wan didn't learn about the plan until later that evening when Padme was already asleep. Despite their preparations and the watchful presence of R2-D2, Obi-Wan and Anakin had to move fast to intercept a pair of Kohans, small deadly amphipods, that invaded the sleeping senator's apartment and stealthily slithered their way onto her bed. The Jedi had to move even faster to catch up with the assassin who had unleashed the Kohans. Traveling by airspeeder and instinct, the Jedi pursued their quarry for more than 100 kilometers through the skies and streets of Galactic City before their hunt ended in a crowded nightclub. Although the assassin appeared to be a fair-skinned female human, she was actually a clawed-eyed shapeshifter who wore a dark elastic bodysuit that remained taut when she changed forms. Inside the nightclub, her attempt to shoot Obi-Wan in the back had resulted in the Jedi using his lightsaber to literally disarm her. The clawed-eye was still in shock as Obi-Wan carried her through an exit that led to an alley outside the club. Anakin walked alongside them, and the look of simmering rage in his eyes was all the power he needed to encourage the local denizens to clear the alley. The clawed-eye moaned as Obi-Wan eased her trembling body onto the alley floor. Anakin hoped she would stay cautious long enough to provide some answers. Obi-Wan looked into the clawed-eye's eyes and said, "Do you know who it was you were trying to kill?" "It was the senator from Naboo," the clawed-eye muttered. "And who hired you?" The muscles in her face spasmed as she tried to maintain a human visage. She muttered, "It was just a job." Kneeling beside the clawed-eye, Anakin felt his anger rise at this creature who considered killing Padme just a job. It took all of his self-control to maintain a calm, gentle tone as he leaned forward and asked, "Who hired you? Tell us." The clawed-eye's eyes rolled toward Anakin. When she didn't answer immediately, Anakin roared, "Tell us now!" The clawed-eye gulped and said, "It was a bounty hunter called..." Her statement was interrupted by a small projectile that made a psst, psst sound as it streaked down and embedded itself in her neck. Anakin and Obi-Wan turned their heads fast and traced the projectile's trajectory to a high upper roof where an armored man wearing a jetpack suddenly launched into the sky and disappeared. The two Jedi looked back to the clawed-eyes, whose flesh turned dark green as their features contorted back to their natural configuration. "We shan't smimo," she gasped before her head tilted back. Being fluent in Huttese, Anakin understood the assassin's last words, bounty hunter slimeball, and with great bitterness, he wished he had given them a name instead. Obi-Wan reached to the dead clawed-eye's neck and removed the projectile, a nasty little item that had stabilizing fins for long-range shooting and an injector needle tip. "Toxic dart," Obi-Wan observed. Anakin felt some relief that at least one assassin could no longer harm Padme. Looking at the clawed-eye's corpse, he thought, "You got what you deserved." And then he trembled. He knew it wasn't the way of the Jedi to think anyone deserved to die, but he thought it just the same.